Hey everybody, look at me. I'm a pickle. I'm Pickle Rick. Hey guys, I'm gonna do a stream today. It's for people that are just learning how to build a ship to get to the orbit of Kerbin and how to actually get to orbit, how to fly the ship. So I'm gonna kind of go over this as though I'm talking to folks who haven't played the game before. So there'll be a little bit of descriptions of things like what's ISP, what's thrust to weight, what's delta V. Those are the main three concepts, and then how you use the controls to control your ship. So we'll start by building a ship. In order to get to orbit, we have something that has to eventually be in orbit, and we have something that has to push that thing to orbit. So I'll need at least two stages. So to start with, we start from the top of the rocket and work down. So we need a capsule, right? And I use the middle mouse button to scroll in and out, right? I need a parachute, which is down here in utilities on the top. I'll need a heat shield so I don't burn up when I come back in the atmosphere, which is under thermal, right there. And then this is what's going to come back, so I need to be able to decouple it from the rest of anything it's attached to. So we'll go up here to decouplers, and we'll pick, not that one. Decouplers is right there. And we'll pick that one. And then we need some kind of fuel for this stage. So we'll come up here, and we'll pick this fuel tank and stick it on. And we need an engine for this stage. So we'll go to engine, and we'll pick the Terrier. Now I picked the Terrier. There are two kinds of engines in the game. One is there are vacuum engines that work best in above the atmosphere, and there are atmospheric engines that work best in the atmosphere. And if I hover over this right now, you see this engine has in atmosphere, it only has 170 seconds of ISP. That means this engine can only burn for, with one unit of fuel, can only burn for 170 seconds. But in space, it can burn for 335 seconds. So this is clearly better in space than it is in the atmosphere. So this is a vacuum engine, and it's very good for this 34 kilonewtons of thrust, and it's perfect for this ship. Okay, so that's our upper stage. This is what we're going to have orbiting Kerbin. Now I need something to push this up into space. Right? So in order to do that, I need another decoupler. Right there. And then I need to build something underneath this that'll get us up into space. Now, how do I know what I build below this is going to get me up into space? That has to do with your delta V, which is change in your velocity. So if I start out at zero velocity, in order to get to space, I need to change my velocity by 3,400 meters per second. And that's the delta V that's required. Think of it like a gas tank, right? The more gas you have, the farther you can go. Well, the more delta V you have, the farther you can go. So we're going to build something down here that will have enough delta V to push this whole thing with close to 3,400 delta V. So first thing we need, obviously, is tanks. Tanks. And I just know from having done this a gazillion times, I need at least two of these tanks. So if I put one on there and I hold the Alt key down, I can click and put a second. I could copy it and put a second one down. And then we need an engine to get us there. And since we're going to start out on the ground, we'll be in the atmosphere. So we'll look for engines that are better for atmospheric flight here. And I just know from experience here, the best is a swivel. So we're going to look for swivel. The reason the swivel is good is it's good in atmosphere, and the engine gimbals. So I can have some kind of directional control. Right? And you can see in this one, that's the wrong, there's the swivel. You can see on this one, my ISP in atmosphere is 280, and my ISP in vacuum is 320. It's still a decent, it has better performance in vacuum, but the two numbers, are the difference in the two numbers is getting closer together. 200 is close to 3, so right here. Plus it says, if you look at the top, it's a swivel, it's a sustainer engine, and this is what uh, let's do. Okay, see, sustainers are what I'm calling atmospheric engines, and orbital. If I go down here to the poodle, orbitals are considered vacuum. So I prefer to just think of them as atmosphere versus vacuum. So trust me on this. You want it to swivel. It gimbals, and it's good in atmosphere. The one that was next to it, the Reliant, has a little bit more thrust, 260 versus 215, but it doesn't gimbal. So now you don't have any control to pitch the rocket. So that's what I'm going to do for the core stage. Now, once again, I was saying I need to have 3,400 delta V to push this whole thing to orbit. So if I come over here and I click the cog next to this engine stage, it will tell me that I have 2,485 delta V. Well, that's not enough. I need another 600 delta V to get to orbit, to push this from this stage to push all the way up to orbit. And even that's not right, because if I come over here, you see that's vacuum. If I click here, now I only have 2,175. So now I need another 1,300, 200, 300-ish delta V to get there. Oh my God, how are we going to do that? Well, we'll do that by adding boosters. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go to the decouplers again, and I'm going to find this one, which is the TT38K radial decoupler, and we're going to go down here and bring this up to 4. We're going to stick those on like that, just for now. There we go. And then we're going to come back to engines, and we're going to go to boosters. Now, boosters are solid rocket boosters. Once you fire them, they run at 100% until they run out. You have no control over them at all, and they do not gimbal. So I'll grab this hammer here, and I'm going to put 4 of those on. Like that. And they're not centered. Are they centered? No, they're off. Now, the way you put things onto other things is, you see my mouse pointer, you point it until it's over the thing you want to attach to, and you see there'll be a little white ball that's kind of showing where it's trying to attach. And I want to put it right on this decoupler here, so I want it right there. Now they're centered. Yes, they're centered, and they're on there. Now, where do you put the boosters on the decouplers? Well, you want the boosters to be the top of the boosters to be close to where the decouplers are. And so if I come down here, I can either click this button or I can press the 2 key. And now I can click this. Oh. Is it not the 2 key? Oh, I pressed the 1 key, sorry. Press the 2 key, and you see it switches to this right here. I can either click this or press the 2 key. And now I can click this, and I have this gizmo that pops up, and I can drag this whole thing. I can drag this whole thing down. And I can put the decouplers up close to the top of the boosters. The reason you want to do that is when these decouple, there's a force, an ejection force. And if you put them up near the top of the booster, they'll push the boosters away from the top. And then they'll catch in the airstream, and they'll want to go down. And the next thing is, you want to make their engine bells just a little bit below the main engine bell, so that they don't suck into the ship. So once again, instead of the booster itself, I'm going to go to press the 2 key, boom, and I'm going to click on the booster right there. I pressed the 3 key. Sorry about that. You press the 2 key and then click the booster itself. And I can drag it down. Why is it not moving? Oh. Okay. Oh, because it went back to when when I clicked I clicked this button, the third one, which changes where uh, the main part of the whole ship is, where you're controlling from. So what I'm going to do here to fix this is I'm going to go make sure I'm back in this mode, and I'm going to pull this tank off completely. And I'm going to make sure I'm in four-way symmetry, and I'm going to stick it back on where I want it, right there. And I want these bells below the engine bells, so I'm going to press the second option here, the move and rotate option, and I'm going to pick the booster itself, the decoupler itself, and I'm going to drag it down like that. Okay. Took us a long way, but we got to where we wanted to go. So the engine bells of the boosters are just below the engine bells of the engine. The boosters themselves are up towards the top of the decoupler, so they're going to fall off and fly underneath the ship. Now, to get better performance, I'm going to go back to the normal attach mode. And I'm going to go down here to this little feather thing here. That's your aerodynamics, and I'm going to put a nose cone on top of these. So let's check our staging and our delta V again. So the first thing that's going to happen is these engines are going to fire. And they're going to be in atmosphere, and they're going to get us 811 meters per second. And then they're going to fall off. And then this engine is going to fire, right? And it has 2175. So we'll call this 2200 plus 900. That gets us around 3100 delta V. So we're still a little below the 34 that we need. But when this stage falls away, then this upper stage is going to kick in with this engine. And we've got 2,137. So we'll steal the last 300 we need to get to orbit from this engine. And then this whole stage here will fall back to Kerbin. So this gets us enough delta V. The other thing we have to look at is what is our thrust to weight ratio. On the launch pad, we don't want to have too high a thrust to weight ratio, or we're going to just blaze into space and be a fireball while we're still in the atmosphere, and we're just wasting energy pushing against the air. So the best thrust to weight you want, we'll look back at this first stage, and it says my thrust to weight is 2.77. So it means I have 2.77 times the thrust I need to push myself off the ground. I want to get that back between 1.33 and 1.4. You do that by right-clicking on one of the booster engines, and then you come up here to the thrust limiter, and you pull this back, and then come to see what your thrust changes to. Okay, so it's got to come back more. Oop. 1.24 is too low, so we'll come back up a little bit. And 1.44, just a sniggle too high, and just 2 little clicks there. 1 more little click. Okay. That's perfect, 1.33. Okay, so we can close this window now. We can close these windows. Okay, so now let's check our staging. You stage by pressing the space button. So you press the space button and this engine will fire. When it runs out of thrust, it will decouple, and then you'll have to press the space bar again to get this engine to fire. So what I could do is just drag this into here, the engine itself, and I can delete that. Now, when this engine runs out, it will decouple, and this engine will fire. The center engine will fire, right? And that'll burn out, and when that burns out, then this decoupler will fire, right? And then you'll have to press the space bar again to get this engine to fire. So I can drag this engine down into here and get rid of that. So now when it decouples, the engine automatically starts. You don't have to make a second press. And then after you've entered the atmosphere, or once you've turned retrograde so that you're going to re-enter the atmosphere, you can press this button and decouple the capsule, right? And then the capsule will enter the atmosphere, and when you get to about 10,000 feet or 3,000 meters, you'll press the space bar one last time and deploy your parachute and come back to Kerbin. So the only thing we have to do now is let's add some launch clamps onto this to stabilize it on the launch pad, and that's under structural. We can come down here and just stick them on like that. And now we go to the launch pad and we press the space bar because we're all excited to get to space, and what happens? The launch clamps release and your ship falls down to the launch pad and explodes. We don't want that. So grab the stage to hold the number 1 and drag it up until it's on the number 2 and let go. Right? So now you can press the space button. The engines will fire, but now you're still sitting rumbling on the launch pad connected to the launch clamps until you press spacebar again. So if you want to just press one spacebar and fire the engines and release the launch clamp, what do? Grab the launch clamp, drag it down into the first stage, and delete the stage. Now we got our staging correct. Spacebar, drop the launch clamps, fire the engines. Run out of these engines, fire the decouplers, fire that engine up. This runs out, drop the whole bottom stage, and activate the upper stage engines. And then when we're ready to come back home, reduce our orbit suborbital, drop the whole bottom stage of the upper stage there, and then when we're at 3,000 meters, we deploy our parachutes. So our staging is now correct. So last thing we can do is come up here, and let's call this orbit 1. And then save it. And then, you know what? This whole workspace vehicle thing has to do with creating sub-assemblies. I just make them the same. Every ship has its own workspace and its own vehicle. So I just name them the same thing. Orbit 1. One day, once I fully understand how this all works, I'm going to make a tutorial on how to use the workspace and vehicle thing. I don't know why they couldn't have just made this a sub-assembly like in KSP1. I think this is a downgrade, but that's just my opinion. Okay, so you can see we've already got some things here, but we're not going to worry about those. We'll do a save. Okay. Now, we're a little high on the launch pads, or on the launch clamps, right? So I can take the whole ship by clicking on that symbol, zoom out a little bit, and I can just pull it, get it in this angle, pull it down. And I'll clamp it, and then I'll pull back to take a look at what that looks like. Yeah, that's a little better. So, once again, I'll hit save and save. And then now we're ready, finally. I want to launch on launch pad 1. Something's there already, so I'm going to recover it. And I'm going to pick launch pad 1 and go to the launch pad. Finally, we're on the launch pad. We're almost ready. This is your nav ball, and we want to turn to the east because the planet is rotating, right, from west to east, and you want to take advantage of the rotation of the planet. You'll get the orbit, the speed the planet is rotating added to whatever your velocity is. So we're going to do this the simple way. We're going to hit the V key to make sure our throttle is all the way at the top. It starts there normally. If you hit the X key, the throttle turns off. If you hit the shift key, you can manually make the throttle go up, and if you hit the control key, you can manually control the throttle down. So before launch, we'll go to full throttle by pressing the Z key. Okay. Once that's done, we want to turn on stability control, and you do that. That's this SAS thing here. And it's already on by default in KSP2, but if it's not, you press the T key to toggle SAS mode. So make sure SAS mode is on. Okay, and then now I'm going to start the countdown and launch, and I'm going to climb straight up until my altitude in this window right here is at 10,000. Right? As soon as I'm at 10,000, I'm going to press the D key. Right, this is your we were pointing, this is called your bearing indicator. It's basically a symbolic image of a person. There's a head, the V is your butt pointing down, and the outstretched horizontal things are your arms outstretched. So I want to, this is north on the nav ball, this is south, this is east. So I want to start pitching over to the east. To do that, you control it with the A, S, W, D keys. The D key will pitch you over to the right. The A key will pitch you over to the left. The S key will cause this to want to pitch up, and the D key will want this to pitch down. Okay, we'll learn more about that on the way up, but it's easier to describe it now than when we're in flight. So with that basic instruction, let's just climb up to 10,000 feet by launching. Okay, that's not supposed to happen. So let's hit the X key to stop burning. We can't stop burning those, but we'll hit the escape key. Let's go back into the VAB and see what has gone wrong. Let's look at that thrust to weight ratio again. .33. That should be enough. That's yeah, 1.33. And I forgot to switch it back to vacuum. Back to vacuum. That's actually going to make it even less. But let's do that. 1.33 should be able to get us off the launch pad. Okay, anywhere from 1.33 to 1.4 is fine, because you don't want to sit here and try to do. I wish I could just click here and tell you what I wanted it to be, but I can't. So anything from 1.33 to 4 is fine. So why did it fall to the launch pad? Was it a bug? Because this is in development? Let's go back and try to find out. Or maybe in KSP2, I need more than 1.33 to 1 to get off the launch pad. Let's go learn together. So I got that. Let's save it again. Let's go back to the launch pad and try again. I'm at full throttle. My SAS is on. Okay, apparently we need more than 1.33, so I'm going to go back to the VAB. This could be a bug. 1.33 should be plenty of delta V to get us off the pad. So I'm just going to raise it up a little bit and try again. So I'm going to come here, click this. That should have changed it for all of them, and it did. Right, I'm picking any one. So let's increase it by half the distance from where we are now. Let's go up to there. Save it. And let's launch again. Full throttle. SAS is on. And if I press space again, I can bypass the countdown. Okay, I need more thrust because I started to fall before I started going up. So, escape. Back to the VAB. any thrust ratio over 1 should never fall back down. Because you've got more thrust, then, well, that's not quite true because the engines take time to rev up. So that might be why there's the slight drop before it goes back up. I can fix that by putting my launch clamps up above the first stage and then counting 1 second before I press and release the launch clamps to make sure the engines have ramped up to full speed. Let's see what happens if I do that. Let's come up here and let's add a stage. Let's pull the launch clamps up to here. So now when the engines fire, count 1 second, press spacebar to release the launch clamps. And let's see what happens if we keep it at the same thrust ratio we have right now. Let's again save it. And let's launch and try again. Now I'm just going to press space, and then I'm going to bypass the countdown by pressing space again to fire the engines, and then I'm going to press one last time space to release the clamps. So, okay, we'll start the count. Spacebar. 1 second. Spacebar. Hey, look at that! I didn't fall first. Left or right with the Q and the E key. I'm just going to keep it going straight up right now, though, until these boosters run out. This is my actual height. This is the height of my periapsis. This is the highest point I'm going to go. Okay, it just dropped off, so now I'm going to press the D key and start pitching over slightly. When this gets to 10,000, I want to be at 45 degrees, so I'm going to keep pitching over. I want to be right about there. Now, normally you would modulate your throttle with the control in the shift. I'm not. Now I'm going to focus my attention down here. Right? And when this gets to 50, that's the time it's going to take me to get to apoapsis. Right? I'm going to pitch down some more. And I see that start to creep up again. Well, now I'm going to be looking at this altitude when this gets to about 30,000. I'm looking over here at my apoapsis. When that hits 80, I'm going to stop burning. So I'm at 30, so I'm going to pitch down a little bit more with the D key. This is at 60. When this hits 60, or when this hits 40, sorry, I keep changing between where I'm actually at and where my AP is at. At 40, I'm going to pitch down some more. Now I'm at 70, 80. I'm going to hit X to stop burning. And I'm going to switch to the M key so you see what our orbital path looks like. So this is the apoapsis. It's the highest point the ship's going to reach, which is 83 kilometers. Anything over 70 is in space. So then I'm also going to look down here, and I'm going to see that my time to reach this point is 1 minute and 49 seconds. I'm going to just wait and coast right now. I'm going to pitch the ship using the D key, and I'm going to point the bearing indicator at the horizon. This is the blue is the sky, the brown is the ground. So there I am. I'm now pointed horizontal, because what we want to do now is we don't want to make this go higher. We want to make these two sides start to go around the planet. So we're going to wait until we're about 40 seconds away from this point, and then we're going to burn again, and that's going to push the AP away from us. And we're going to just modulate our thrust using the shift and the control key to try to keep this about a minute in front of us, right? About 50 seconds in front of us. Okay. So I'm waiting for this to get to 40 seconds away. takes patience. I know you're like anxious to push that button. Go, go, go. 42, 41, 40. So now I'm going to thrust a little bit by pressing the shift key. Or I can just grab this manually and pull it up. Right, it's still going down, so I'm going to push it faster until it starts going back up again. So it's at 40, so I'm going to push that until it's starting to go in front of me. It's about a minute in front of me now, so I'm going to pull my throttle back down again. And I just heard the clank from the engine drop, stage cutting out, and it changed, automatically switched to our upper stage. Right, and I'm getting too far away again, so I'm going to pull this back until I catch up. And I'm staying on the horizon, so I need to come down a little bit more, the D key, to point at the horizon. And I'm just waiting to get to 40 seconds again. And I'm just going to control it from over here. Okay. It's a little before 40 seconds, but I'm going to throttle up again. Still dropping, throttle up more. Okay, there it is. Pushing away, staying away from me now. Around 42 seconds. You notice what's happening is my apoapsis is going up just a little bit, so I'm going to pitch down just a little below the horizon. Right, I'm keeping this guy less than a minute in front of me. Right, I'm pitching down a little bit more because I don't want this apoapsis to go up much. And then as soon as you see the PE appear, stop burning for a second and right click it to pin it. Or you can also look at it down here. Right? And I'm going to wait till I get close to the AP again, and I'm going to pitch with the D key down below the horizon like 2 ticks, because I want this to be 80 and it's at 91, so it's climbing. Right? But burning from here will continue to push this out. So we'll do it that way. Go to 2 below. And I'm 20 seconds away, so I'm gonna burn again. And when this gets to 80, I'm gonna stop burning. There we go. So now let's look at what so we're in orbit now. We're in an 80 by 90 orbit. And if I wanted to even this orbit out a little bit, if I look, I'm moving in this direction. So my orbital height in front of me is 80, and my orbital height behind me is 90. I right-clicked to pin that. If I turn my ship and face toward the planet, that's called radial in. And what will happen is it will lower the orbit in front of me, right? Because I'm burning down this way and I'm moving this way. If I don't raise the orbit in front of me while lowering it behind me, I want to point the ship away from the planet, which is called radial out. And on the nav ball, radial out, this is the ground. So radial out is if you point to the top of the blue, I'm now pointing out away from the planet. If I look at my orbit, you can see, there I am. I'm pointing out away from Kerbin, and I'm moving in this direction to the right. So watch what happens if I just tap the S key. Watch what happens to those 2 orbits, heights. See, this one's coming down, that one's going up. When I get this one to me, I can stop burning, right? And that's as high as I can push this orbit. I can't push it up anymore. Going past when my apoapsis hits where I am, or the periapsis reaches where I am, burning radial out doesn't help anymore. And what radial burns do, if you think about it, if I put the ship, Jesus Christ, the sensitivity of this is way too high. Okay, imagine this is now at the bottom of the planet. if I burn from this point radial out, right, this orbit is going to swivel to the right from a point as if it was pinned right here. If I burn radial in, this is going to want to go down. So this side's going to want to go up. So it's going to swivel this whole orbit from right to left. Okay. So out, left to right, in, right to left. Okay. At this point. So radial burns swivel your orbit. That's what they're designed to do. Right. Now, if I look at it from this direction, maybe if I focus on the planet, I'll have a little better control. Yeah. If I look at it, I'm orbiting equatorially around the planet. Once again, if I can turn this so that I can get the ship in front of me, I can right-click these again to unpin them. Right. Now I get the ship here. Now let's say I'm looking at the orbit edge on right now. And let's say I want, no, I'm not. I'll look at it. Edge on. When this line is straight across, it's edge on. So there we go, we're edge on. So if I want to make this orbit and I want to change its inclination, I want to change its angle, I would take the ship and I would burn either normal or anti-normal. What is normal and anti-normal? If you go to the nav ball again, look at our nav ball. I'm going to pitch back to the horizon. And then I'm going to pitch up with the S key until I get to this symbol right here. Right? And that symbol is a triangle with tick marks on it. That's called anti-normal. It means that I'm pointing my ship normal to my orbit in a downward direction, which is this. If we look here, I'm orbiting. You can see the way I'm moving. And now the ship is pointing anti-normal to the direction that I'm moving, which is, in this case, south. And if I press the W key to show rolling in the other, pitching down, right, you'll see that symbol, which is retrograde, the retrograde symbol, and you can see it means that I'm moving along my orbit, but in the backward direction. And if I keep pitching down with that W key, I'll get to another triangular symbol that doesn't have the tick marks on it. That's called your normal vector. And what is the normal vector? Well, it points your ship in the upper, perpendicularly up direction from your orbital path. So I come back here, you can see, well, actually I was already in the mode you want to be in. So now the ship is pointing north. Oh, what I came here for to show you. Now the ship's actually pointing up. Right, anti-normal, the ship would be moving in this direction and pointing down. Okay, so that's what the radial in, radial out, normal directions do in your orbit. And of course, the last one to go back to is if I pitch up again with the S key until I get back to, I'm going to actually go down again with the W key until I get to the circle here. Right? What's the circle do? Well, it points me in the direction that I'm moving. So the guy with the wings is where you're pointing, and the circle here is the direction you're moving. And when you get them on top of each other, you're pointing in the same direction that you're moving. Hey, look at that. I'm going that way and I'm pointing that way. Right? Right. If I pitch up, see, now I'm pointing up, but I'm still moving that direction. If I pitch down, right, I'm pitching south, but I'm still moving in that direction. And you see these guys separate from each other. So I'm going towards anti-normal, and here I'm going towards normal, and then here, once again, all of them lined up means I'm pointing in the same direction that I'm moving. So that is how you get to an 80 or close to an 80 kilometer orbit. We're actually closer to 81, and I can actually circularize. I still have a lot of delta V over here, you can see, with this ship design. I build it with extra delta V because when you're learning, you might need a little more extra delta V. So I'm going to pin these again, 81 and 90. And if I wanted to be in, let's say, an 81 orbit, 81 kilometer orbit, first thing I'll do is I'll turn the ship so that it's pointed retrograde, because we're gonna lower this orbit to 80 when we reach this orbit, the periapsis, the lowest point in our orbit. Things you do when you make burns in orbit, it really affects your orbit on the opposite side from where you make the prograde burns from. So I'm just waiting till I get up to here. I can show you how to get there faster. But the first thing I want to do is make sure that my ship is pointing retrograde. So I'm going to come up here, roll all the way around until I get to that retrograde symbol. And I'm going to put my bearing marker on the retrograde symbol. You can also do that with these controls here, right? This is prograde, so this will point my ship automatically to the prograde. This will point my ship automatically to the retrograde, right? So I'm pointing opposite direction. This one will point me north or up. This one will point me down. This one will point me in. And this one will point me out. Okay. Now in KSP1, you have to earn skills for your pilots to be able to get these controls. In KSP2, you always have them. But I wanted to show you how to do it manually on the nav ball so you can see what the bearing indicator points to. So we're going to lower our orbit. We're going to lower that 91 kilometer orbit. So we want to point retrograde, which is this one down here, opposite the direction we're moving. I'm going to go back to the nav ball so we can see it. I'm going to pin these both. Right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click Kerbin to pin it, to focus on it. Right. And I'm going to warp up to this point. I can click here and say warp to point. I'm going to do this manually, and then the last thing I'll do is show how to use the maneuver planner tool. So when I get close to here, I'm going to look at my altitude up here. Right now, I'm going to just start burning. You see that's coming down. Right? When they started to swap sides, as soon as you see them want to swap sides, hit the X key and stop burning. They'll want it, and you'll end up close to a circular orbit. Right? When you get close to circularizing, the AP and the PE will want to swap sides. And all I did was one little tap on the shift key. And I held my hand over my other finger over the X key, and as soon as I saw it swap, I pressed the S key to stop burning. Now we're in an 80 by 80 orbit. Let's say I want to make this orbit at this point, right? I want to make the orbit on this side of the planet, the apoapsis on this side of the planet, be 100 kilometers. So I'll create a maneuver node here, and I'll click on it. And if I burn prograde, watch what happens to your AP and your PE. Right? So now that AP is in front of me, I can right-click on it to pin it. And I clicked on it while it was over the planet, so I got this crap to pop up. So let's just keep pushing it out. Damn it. God, this is too damn sensitive. You just breathe. I don't know where the maneuver node went again. There it is. So then I'm going to keep pulling this out. See if it'll let me pin it. No, it won't let me pin it. There it is. As soon as you see it, you can pin it. And let's make it 200, since it was such a hassle to pin it. So just keep pulling this prograde handle out until that number reaches 200. And you can pull, if you go past it, you can pull this one back. There we go. Almost 200 kilometers. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the ship in the direction. There'll be a blue marker that will pop up on the nav ball, right? And that's called the maneuver node. That's the direction you want your ship to burn in order to make this maneuver node that we just created. So you can do that by pressing this button here, and you'll see your bearing indicator will point to a new indicator here, which should be dark blue. And then if I click this button, it'll warp the ship to a little bit in front of this where you're going to make this burn. Press that. Ship goes up to there. Now, I'm 20. When this number gets to 0, you're going to want to start the burn, and this bar will start to come down by pressing. You start the burn by pressing the Z key. Right? And then as soon as this bar gets down to here, you press the X key to stop. But these dots will give you kind of a timing cue. At 4, they'll start. 4, 3, 2, 1, C. And then before it gets past that, X. Okay? And then you close this by clicking the trash can. Right. And you see now you're at 198. We're almost at 2. You can try to get to exactly 2 by just feathering the S, the shift and the X key. There we go. So I just tap the S a little bit, waited until it got to 200, and then hit the X. Now let's say you want to circularize now, since now you're at 281. Once again, create a maneuver node over here by clicking the orbit line, create maneuver planner, click it to open it, and pull the prograde handle now until you raise your orbit here, and they get on top of each other. Let's close this, because it's in our way. Zoom in and see if we can see that. The blue line is where you currently are, and the orange line is where we're going, where we're going to. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend well past where that line is. And then I'm going to see it's not giving me an option to pin it. Go away. I should see another PE pop up here, but I'm not, because this is in development. So I can't see what that eventually is going to be. So I can just visually get them to be on top of each other. The blue line that I want to get to, and the orange line or yellow line where I want to go to. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to pull this yellow line down until it's on top of this line that's in the middle by going retrograde. There. Okay. So when my ship gets to here, I'll burn again, and this will be close to a 200 by 200 orbit. So once again, I'm going to turn to the maneuver node. You see the bearing indicator turns to the maneuver node. Once I've turned to the maneuver node, I'm going to click this to warp to just in front of where I want to make the burn. And my ship's up here. Then I'm going to watch this until it gets to 0. Watch the dots. And then it's, once again, now you don't want to do Z and X here because you won't be able to do it fast enough. I'm just going to tap the shift key to slightly add thrust. And then I'm going to press the X key when this bar gets to 0. So 9 seconds, 8 seconds, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1. Just tap the S, the shift key. and X key, and close it. And you'll see now that our PE is at 12. What happened here? Oh, I see what happened. Is that true or no? That is weird. Well, anyway, I'm on this side of the planet, and that is I'm going to make another maneuver node right here. I'm going to create a maneuver node, and I'm going to once again see. It would be very nice if I could see what I'm actually. See, when I do this, right? Oh, there. See, now I got a marker I can pin. Finally. So now I want to push that until it's around. Let's pin the orange one on this side. See how that's getting too high? So once again, remember what I said. If I want to lower the orbit behind me, I burn out. See how that's coming down? Make that to 200. Right? Now I need to go up. Raise the orbit in this direction. So that's prograde. And I can't see that because it's covered. This has gone up to 208, so burn out again. Till I get that on top of me. So I can't go any higher on this side because I'm only at 196, so I can't make it go up anymore. But I can make the other side come down. Get that back to 200. And I'm going to point to the maneuver node. And I'm going to burn with the shift button. Stop when they start to switch sides. Right, now I close it. Now you see I'm at a 198 by 198 orbit. So I've circularized my orbit using the maneuver tool. And I wish there was a way I could hide these other ships because they're confusing. But so there you go. That's how you get to orbit. That's how you use the maneuver planner. That's how you use the nav ball controls on this guy. Normal is pointing up. Anti-normal is pointing down. Radial in is pointing towards the center of the planet. Radial out is away from the center of the planet. Prograde is the direction you're flying. And retrograde is opposite the direction you're flying. Okay, so I'm gonna call it here, and in the next video I'll play around with how much delta V do I need to get to an orbit around the moon and return to Kerbin. Okay. Well, actually, why don't we deorbit this ship? So go back to the map mode. Double click the planet to focus it. Find the KSC, which should be over here. Right. And I'm going to warp my ship to right about here. When the ship is there, I'm going to point retrograde, which it already is, and I'm going to press the Z button. See, I'm lowering the orbit in front of me now. So I'm burning retrograde. And I'm going to wait until the orbit line says that I'm going to be right about here, where my pointer is. And then I'm going to press X. Now I'm going to switch back to this mode. I'm going to point the ship normal. Now the reason I'm doing this is changing your inclination is the most expensive operation you can do. So when I decouple, there'll be a force that will want to push this down, which is going to want to try to push your ship up. If I was still pointing retrograde, when I did that first, it would slow me down some more, which would move my landing point. And second, there's a chance I can run into the service module that I just jettisoned. So if I point normal and then press space, right, and then I go back to retrograde, right, I can't run into this anymore. And I didn't change the point that I'm going to land here at. So now we can use the greater than key to warp time. And when we get to 70 kilometers, it will automatically go to a maximum of 3 times. Right? Now we're getting atmospheric effects starting at about 48, 45. I'm going to hit the less than key to get us back to 1 times warp. Now I'm just looking at this. All I've got left to deploy is the parachute. When this gets to 3,000, I'm going to press the space bar. 3,000 meters is about 10,000 feet. So this has been about an hour. It's longer than I would like, but I explained a lot in this video. The next ones should go faster because you know a lot of the controls and things. Right? If I want to get to 3,000 faster, I can press the warp key again. I can't go past 3 warp. 6, 5, 4. Back to normal speed. 3,000. Press the space bar. And then I can turn off SAS because I just want it to dangle without being controlled. So hit the T key to turn that off. There we go. Now the reason you deploy at 3,000 meters is that if you can deploy higher than that, but now you're falling at 6.8 meters per second, and you're going to be above. You're going to be high, high in the sky. And now I don't have to wait as long to get down to the surface. And once again, I can speed the rate I'm falling up again by pressing the warp key twice. I don't like to hit the water in warp, so what I'll do is when I get about 20 feet above the water, I'll go back to 1x speed. Okay, back to 1x speed and splashdown. So we did a complete mission. We went up to orbit and we came back. And now to recover your ship, you press the escape key and you say recover vessel. Right? And if you were collecting science and things, these would all show up here, and then you can go back to the KSC. And that's the complete mission from start to finish. So I'm going to cut the stream here. I hope it's been helpful for anybody that watches it that's trying to learn how to get to orbit. And until we meet again, stay cool.